Hey paisanos, you want to learn how to edit YouTube videos like your old Papa Magimight? Well, sit on down and I'm going to show you everything you need to know about editing in less than 5 minutes. First of all, we're going to download and install Blender. This is Blender 3.5. In this video, I actually have not updated, so I'll be using Blender 2.9. I am currently running, oh, am I on Blender 3.01? It should all look the same. You're going to want to go, blender.org, link in the description below, to download and install Blender. Papa Magimight can't seem to find the old. That's funny and goofy. Don't worry about it, kiddos. You're gonna want to have a nice strong drink. I've got an Arizona tea with me today. So, Blender. Blender is a fantastic piece of software. You can do 3D modeling, you can do VFX, a lot of cool stuff with that. I like using Blender for video editing and rendering. So we're just gonna click on video editing. When you first install it, it'll ask you a couple of startup questions. I think I leave mine on the defaults, so you can just click on video editing. Here we are, a couple basic things. We've got the timeline. We can scrub through this to create our video. Up here is kind of the viewport. You'll be able to see your video up here. This tab might come in handy. So if you are on a very crappy machine, if you have like a cruddy laptop or something, you can go click on proxy render and change that to 25%. So that's kind of how detailed the image is. The final render will still look like 100% quality, but this turns down the quality so you can kind of process it faster on your computer. Also right here, usually, so I should have mine set up. When you first open it up, yours will be a file browser, so you can kind of see all your clips here. I like keeping mine as a dope sheet, so I can actually edit and animate different things in the video, so you might want to change that. You basically click this little icon here, file browser if you want to open up your files, dope sheet if you want to animate, and we'll talk about that later in the video too. Here's our sequencer. And this is rendering preset, so this little, it looks kind of like a printer. That's output properties. Usually I just leave it on that and I won't mess around with that. But here you can change the resolution, how big or small you want it to be. The aspect ratio, I only mess with resolution. I haven't messed with too much. Frame start and end range, this is how long your video is. You can also change that. I'm gonna move me. So that's also can be down here as well, the start and end of the video, as well as what frame you're currently on. So yeah, let's start by bringing stuff in. I usually, on Windows, I'm actually on Linux, but usually with most things you can kind of just use a file explorer and drag and drop. Let me see if I have some good source footage we can use. Oh yeah, I made this goofy little 3D, this is actually a thing I did in Blender. This is a little animation of a skeleton. He's pretty goofy, and he's just kind of dancing around. So we could have our skeleton on here, and you'll notice I do have it on 25. I can change that to 100% quality, and I think actually with this render, it works pretty good. But if you have some videos and you don't have the highest end machine, the skeleton, then this will kind of, you will want to keep your quality on 25%. So we have clips in the timeline here. The blue clips are for video, and the kind of teal greenish clips, that's audio. So let's actually add in some audio as well. I think this is the Messages from the Stars song. You click on a clip to select it. You can shift click on different clips to select multiple clips to move them all around. When clicking on a clip, you can press G to move it around. GY will lock it to the up and down axis, so you can kind of move it out of the way. GX will move it left and right and not up and down. You can press the delete key on your keyboard to delete it. When you're hovering on a clip, you can select a clip and press K to cut it into 2 different pieces. Control Z will undo. You can cut multiple clips. If you can drag select, or you can shift click select a bunch of different clips and hit K to cut them all in half. Then the orange ones are selected. I'm going to press G and move them out of the way. You can also click and drag too, I think, but since I do use Blender for 3D modeling, I'm a lot more used to just hitting G to move something. With these audio clips, you can click, there's a little kind of inspector here. This can kind of mess with the properties of different clips. So here with my audio inspector, I'm going to click on display waveform, and now I can see the audio lines, and let's listen to it. Can scrub through it, of course, by pressing G. You'll notice that here on the timeline, it goes to the end, but then there's some more footage here. But when we get to the kind of end here, the gray box, it loops. So we can go down here to end, and we can just kind of scrub that so we get the entire video of our dancing skeleton. Control S will save it. You want to save your workspace as a .blend file. Different things to know about Blender. You can shift click and select them. So with video strips, you can hit Shift A, and you can add effect strips. So you can add a transform to your strip here. And within the transform, we can do different things, like we can scale it up, we can move it around, We can rotate it, and actually, I'm sorry, all the transforms that I'm doing are happening in this little box right here. So kind of move it left and right, position, rotation, scale. Now, one other thing to notice too, the compositing, the compost, that's how the strip is going to be rendered over the top of it. So let's say we also add another thing. I'm going back to my file explorer here. Here's a great drawing of me. So you'll notice here with my skeleton, I'm going to actually uniform scale. I'm going to shrink him down. So on the needle here, it's on top of the skeleton, but also on top of my photo. You can't see that. A way to fix that, we're going to click on transform, blend, overdrop. So now we can see that's in the background. And maybe with this one, some images have transform kind of built in, but with video, you usually have to add a transform strip to it explicitly. So blending, transforming, that might save you a lot of headaches. If you want to have like 2 different clips at the same time overlaid, you'll have to change the compositing, blend to overdrop. You can also change the opacity too. So I think even if you have it as whatever it was, because I think it's like replace or cross, you can kind of, I don't know, mess around with those different features. Overdrop, I usually just kind of use that as my standard, but you can add transform strips to animate it. So let's talk about that. So let's say here's my skeleton. He starts out here. So here's his position and his scale. Those are the things I'm going to change. So this is how I want the skeleton to start. I'm going to hover over each thing I want to change. I'm going to press the I key and notice that it kind of colors up. And also it's added up here too. So this is why I like having this tool set here that shows me where my keyframes are set, and it starts the animation. I think you can also just like click on that too to change it, but I like pressing I. And we're going to go a little bit. And I'm going to make it so once we get to this point, then the skeleton is going to get a little bit bigger, and he's going to move down and move over. And I'm going to move it to where I want it to be. That's where I want it to change on the timeline. I'm going to press I, and let's watch it. And we'll see that the keyframes transition between both of those. So here's the start, and here's the end keyframe. So what we're doing is kind of setting start locations and end locations, and the program will interpolate between it and make it bigger and scale it up. So definitely, there are more videos on the internet that explain that better. Mess around with it, see if you can figure it out too. That's kind of that's basically how you do it, and then experimentation is a good way to figure out when you want to do it. But here I have it, the keyframe selected, so I can actually change that to make it happen faster. So see, it gets to ending position a lot faster, or we can make it happen slower. We select all of them and move it out. So this will be a lot slower of a transition between those 2 different states, those keyframes. So you can animate pretty much every property. There are a few that you can't, which gets kind of annoying, but most things you can edit and animate those. With audio, you've got volume, so you can turn it way up or way down, depending. Maybe you're making some kind of video, you want to have the audio change, you can do that as well. You can also animate the volume too. Anything that has a little circle, you can animate that. So let's say we want to do a nice fade in on our video. So I'm going to click on audio. I'm going to start out by setting it to 0, I for keyframe, wait a little bit, and let's say that's when I want to get to max volume. Press I, and let's watch that. And actually, the way I'm jumping to the beginning and end, you can press shift and left arrow or right arrow to jump to back and forth, which can be kind of handy. But see, we got that fade. You can actually see it on there too, kind of the up arrow as it gets louder. We can fade things, transforms. Another handy thing too, we can speed up clips too. So I'm going to take off that transform for now. So here's my skeleton. I'm actually going to just turn the audio off on the video for now and actually delete all my keyframes so it doesn't fade in again. So we can also, with a clip, you can, let's say we want to right click on it. We can click on Make Meta Strip, Control G. And I think we can unmeta it as well. But yeah, Make Meta Strip. This is a little bit of a abstract concept, but now this is a meta strip. So if I were to hit Shift A again, I can add a speed control on there. And now that this is a meta strip, so speed control, it's on stretch mode. I can click on this and I can just kind of scroll the strip using the little arrow on the side and condense it, and that will speed up. Now this could be a Leo post. I speed up the thing so the skeleton is moving a lot faster, or I can stretch it out and make it move a lot slower. But this also is actually a good way to use it for, let's say we want to combine strips that have different FPS. Because like, let's say you're just kind of like me, I don't really have my pieces locked into specific frames per second. So sometimes you'll have a clip from your phone and a clip from your computer, and my computer, I usually record at I think 30 frames per second, and my phone is wacky because it'll vary from like 18 to like 24. So actually, let me see if I can find... Alright, so I just downloaded this video. This is a video I recorded this one on my phone. I think this one, I don't know. Usually in Windows and maybe probably Linux, you can right-click on most files in the Explorer. And if you go to Properties, it should kind of tell you details about it. I'm sure there's other ways to do it too. Oh, this one isn't spilling. Though I know on Windows, it actually is kind of nice. You can go over to like probably details, and it'll tell you about how much FPS you have on there. I'm sure there's other way to figure it out too. But you'll notice, here's the audio for the video. So these both have the same name. Blue one is the video. Green is the audio. And you'll notice this audio is longer than the video. And if we put our opacity to overdrop to blend them, and I'm going to turn the blend to overdrop and the opacity to 0.5, so I make it a little bit see-through. We started at the same time. The frames are a little bit... Oh, it's the Luigi clip. The frames are a little bit goofy on this one. It's not kind of matching... It's not matching how... It's kind of just like squished together. They're not running at the same rate. So I'm going to take this strip, and I am going to add a speed control to it. Effect strip. So Shift A, open up this menu. Effect strip, speed control. Slap that on there, and I'm going to stretch it out to the length of the audio, and you can kind of zoom in. I'm sure there's a better way to do this part. I haven't learned how to do that. I just have always kind of sort of eyeballed it. If it's about right, it should be about right. And so now it's sped up. So you'll notice the frames are moving, and actually we can't see the skeleton because of that same thing. Our compositing or compost is weird. So I click on speed. That says overdrop. Why? What? Oh, because our opacity got changed again too. And we watch it again. You'll notice the frames are back to normal. So that's kind of how I was moving at the normal speed, and the skeleton, nothing sped up or slowed down. And sometimes you might want to speed up or slow down depending on what your project is. But if you want two videos to kind of have the same, make it look like they have the same frame rate, so nothing's moving out of sync, you might have to use this trick. Now rendering. Let's say this is my awesome video. Let's turn up the audio a little bit. So I want to release this, and I want to put it on YouTube. I want to send it on Discord. When we render, we can do a test run, so you can just watch the entire video and make sure everything works. We want to scroll down to the Output tab. We're going to click on this little File Explorer icon, or you could type and you can choose where to render, like I've got on my D drive here. I have a tab for my Blender videos, so that's kind of where I default it to render to. And you can choose where you want to render. Maybe like the desktop or the downloads folder is a good place so you don't lose it. You're going to want to go down to File Format and change that to FFmpeg Video. RGB, you want full color. Encoding, I usually have mine at MPEG-4s, though if you want, I don't know if MOV is in there, but you can choose different types. I honestly play it safe. I stick with MPEG-4. There might be a better way to do this. I went down the rabbit hole and I didn't learn a lot. So if someone else, you can do research or just listen to what I'm telling you and do it. Container MPEG-4, your video codec, don't mess with too much of this stuff. Audio, if you wanted to have your audio, sometimes it'll change it to no audio. I just go with MP3. There's probably a way to optimize it so you can post longer videos on Discord, but we'll just go with MP3. I don't mess with any of the other stuff. And to actually render it, we go up to Render, and we click on Render Animation or Control F12, though that's not one hotkey that I usually use. It'll render. Actually, let's show how it renders. When it's rendering, another window will open up, and it's compiling all the frames here. We can minimize it, but don't click out of it because that's important. Progress bar at the bottom shows you how it's far, and the needle going across. It will build up the video. It's thinking about it, considering its options. So let's go. I think I leave it in the Wicked drive, Blender videos. And what did we just render? This new one here, skeleton, MP4. Let's watch it. That was a lie. It was not 5 minutes. And yeah, that's pretty much the essentials of Blender. Drag and drop clips to add them. You can move them around by pressing G or just clicking and dragging. Press K to cut. Click to select. Shift click to select multiple things. Shift A, add a transform to change it up. Speed control. And have fun. If you liked what you saw and you feel like this is some good content for Magimight, some no nonsense, no BS tutorial, let me know. Maybe I'll make some other videos, because right now I'm using a green screen. I'll bite a very cruddy one. You can see all the artifacts on there. I need a better lighting setup. But if you want to learn how to do that, how I record videos, other stuff like that too, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, and maybe we'll do more of this in the future. Have a great day, and enjoy the week.